Tonight, separating religious fact from fiction. Dan Brown's best-selling novel, The Da Vinci Code, is set to come out in paperback tomorrow, but from day one, it has sparked a firestorm of controversy with the startling suggestion that Jesus and Mary Magdalene had a secret child. With the Da Vinci Code movie just around the corner, too, the History Channel's show Digging for the Truth tackles the startling claim tonight. Josh Bernstein is the host, and he joins me live here in New York. Josh, I appreciate you being on the program.
Sure, AJ.
So, one of the controversial notions, as we mentioned, that's put forth in the Da Vinci Code, that Jesus and Mary had a child. That child went off to Europe, Sarah, and is part of a bloodline that still exists today.
Yeah.
Your show is called Digging Up the Truth, so how do you go about trying to uncover whether there's any fact to this?
Well, this is our second season, and the first season we did a lot of DNA testing. And so we thought if there's any way to prove that the bloodline of Jesus and Mary, if it ever existed, were still alive, who would we have to test? Ideally, we would test Jesus or Mary, but we don't have that record.
Not available.
So we went with Dan Brown's theory of the Merovingian dynasty, the French royalty of the 6th century. Is it possible to find a Merovingian royal and then test that person for DNA, compare that to someone from the Middle East? And
so you're talking about a royal from how long ago?
1,400 years ago.
And how'd you do?
You got to watch the show. But it was interesting because in order to find a trace, we went, mitochondrial DNA is the only DNA that would survive this amount of time.
Which is what?
I don't know.
Okay.
I just know the experts tell me.
So where do you find mitochondrial DNA?
You find it in your bones. You find it in your teeth. You find it. It's the part of your DNA that lasts the longest.
I guess my question is, how do you find it in somebody from 1,400 years ago?
Well, there's a church outside of Paris called the Basilica of Saint-Denis, and underneath it is a crypt where the Merovingian royals and the Carolingian royals and all the French royalty was buried. We talked to the people there and said, is there any one of these Merovingians that can be identified? And actually one of them has been identified, thanks to some jewelry she was buried with. And then we went and looked at her bones and said, is it possible that Digging for the Truth and the History Channel could actually pay for the DNA testing to be done?
Okay, so that was my next question. You obviously had some very expensive work done, and on some, I imagine, sacred remains, or felt as sacred to some people. Why in the world were you allowed to do this? Simply because you were willing to pay for it?
I don't know. I think that the show, the History Channel comes in with a credibility that in this case Hollywood may not have. We came in looking at the separating fact from fiction.
Right.
So the church authorities were very willing to let us into parts of France that even Hollywood wasn't allowed into. In this case, the people who were in control of the remains of this queen said, it's the History Channel, this is a hit show on the History Channel, this would be great if you guys could help us solve this mystery.
Going into it, were you thinking, oh, the implications if we actually uncover some truth to this,
Sure.
You will change what we know as history?
Yeah, no, it was a big deal. It was very exciting. It's one of the few episodes of the 26 that I've done so far where we actually potentially could have brought something groundbreaking to the world.
Sure. So did Dan Brown get it right or wrong?
Well, I think you gotta watch the show. But Dan Brown himself would say that there is a lot of fiction in this
Will we
work.
be shocked when we watch the show?
I think you'll be entertained.
All right. Well, I appreciate you dropping by and talking to us about it. It is fascinating. Josh Bernstein from Digging for the Truth, and you can catch it Monday nights on the History Channel. The Da Vinci Code Bloodlines episode that we've been speaking of airs tonight.